So I believe this is the shot. We'll see as we go, but we're going to at least try this. Now, one of the things we can do, my balance board. One of the things that we can do is you don't always have to have the light on, as I imagine you know. And so we'll see which of these we want to do with the light and what we want to do without the light. So is that better for everybody to see with the light? One of the reasons I love doing this in the morning is because it gives me that wake up in the morning, that helping with my circadian rhythm, because when I have the lights on, as we know, I have all my good bright lights set up. I turn on all the lights in the house in the morning so that I'm just lately, I just fall asleep at night. And then unfortunately, I wake up and I've been using the computer a little bit, which is completely against the protocol. I know better than that. Doesn't really matter doing it anyway. So this one I grabbed, even though I prefer it with the blue, just because. So sometimes I have a hard time seeing if they're in the proper position or not, and I'll have to look. I don't know. Oh, we don't like that. We're going to probably move that up a little bit and make sure we don't have a boob shot. So that's going to help us maybe not have a boob shot. We'll see. We'll see. It's not like you guys haven't seen them through silk pajamas. So I bought, this is in no way an advertisement and in no way an endorsement. So unfortunately, I in no way endorse these pajamas. They are from Lily Silk, and the description when I bought them explained that the waistband was one way, used wording to explain the way that the structure of the waistband was, and unfortunately upon receipt it was not that way. I don't remember, I just remember there being lots of problems with it. It was sad because a YouTuber had sponsored a video, they did a sponsored video for this brand, and I completely believe that she had a good experience. I'm, on the other hand, a bug finder, and meaning that I am a person that if there's a problem that is about to happen, that is, if there's a problem in a system, there's a better way of doing it, I am the bug finder. So I'm usually the person that comes across bugs in software systems and things like that. So I found the bug at Lily Silk, and that was not a, I hope you understand what I mean, not a real bug, as in, well, it's a bug in their system, not an insect or other type of animal. Insects are all in the animal kingdom. Anyway, it came up in conversation the other day too, and I thought, I cannot believe I do not know these basics. So I think we will start having some WIP and chats and WIP and learns so that I can take the time to learn new information. And it might be where I film. I have some video from the other day that I think the mic, unfortunately, all of the way everything was set up, I think there was a buzzing, which means I won't be able to use that footage for, we have We have a previous number, everybody. We had a K. I just saw it. I don't need to find, oh, way too many. Way too many. Now, most of the time, people don't care if they take out way too many. I, on the other hand, tend to knock things over. And so for me, I am going to not put out so many diamonds. So this should be done. And where is the bag for this? All right. Oh, W. There we go. Let's see how that's going. So we're not exactly sure if you missed anything or if you didn't. One of the things there's a K around here somewhere. As we know, it'll jump out for us. Let's do H. Look at that. So pretty. Just so pretty. Look at that. So how would you feel about lunch and learns? What topics would you like to have? There's the K. Yay, found the K. So I'm going to put this K over here in hopes that we can finish. Our goal is to finish this square this morning because I have a 10 to 11:30, and then if I'm actually doing what I'm hoping to do today, oh, just so you know, in my world, well, in the world where I am today, I'm in my own little planet, it is a Friday. And for me, Fridays, I call fickle Fridays because on Friday, you never know with me. Is that an H? Yeah. You never know with me. It's usually after work. It's not normally a morning thing, but by the time work hours are finished on Friday, I call it Fickle Friday because for me, Friday is the most fickle day of the year, of the day of the week. Meaning, I usually have my thoughts about like what I'm gonna do that weekend. I hope I just didn't shake my boots to you. What I'm gonna do that weekend. I'm hoping is, so this is all G. I could have done a 4. This isn't. Let's see if we've got some runs. Not really. We have some nice runs. I kind of think that I want to do a different color first. I feel like let's try to get another color out first. Another color is calling to me a little bit more and might be quicker for my eye to find. Look at that. It's the red car syndrome. Once you get a red car, all you see are all the red cars. And this is look at that. There we go. So what would you like to learn about? What I'm thinking about doing, some of the other videos I just adore on YouTube, having lunch and learns about that, where I can reference that video and let you know maybe a week in advance. Say, okay, everybody, now that we've hopefully had an opportunity to watch the original video, what did you think about it? What did you learn? Have you implemented any of the tools? Is there something that you learned that you decided absolutely to not implement? Because not doing is sometimes as powerful, or what we choose not to do, I would imagine, is as powerful as what we choose to do. So what I can do it like that, I think that would be good. So here are some standing videos that I would say are really good to get into. And I'm listing them from the top of my head, and hopefully in editing, Jen, please write these down. I think it would be really cool to, I got Georgia just kissed my pants. Hello, baby love. So you've got, dogs came back in from outside. I didn't hear them go crazy with the neighbor's dog. So look at this. Sometimes it just goes rather quickly. Sometimes. So some of the standing videos that are coming to mind are Andrew Huberman's podcast. And to give credit where credit is due, there's a really nice woman named Sarah who used to work at my chiropractor's office. And my understanding is I believe she's at a law firm now. And she recommended to me the Huberman podcasts, and the information I've been getting from that podcast has been so incredibly helpful. I've been able to implement some of what he talks about. It's a lot of information, and so it's nice to be able to pick and choose because of what I'm going to implement. I personally have a thing for knowing what is 100%. I'm not saying I have a thing for doing 100%. I had to learn with my brain injury that doing 100% sometimes is not what will enable you as a human to have your full experience. So, for example, I was in brain treatment training, however you want to call it. Depends on the people, depends on what you call it. Look at that, we got 2. Boom, that allows us to have 3 right there. So I have a car accident from 2006. Guy made an illegal left because he was more concerned about his groceries than about anybody else. And so he ran a red light to get back home quicker. This is what I understand from the people at the accident and lawyers and things like that. So he ran a red light, and I was was in, not sponsored, I was in my Volvo S60 that I attribute to saving my life. I wrote, after the accident, I actually wrote Volvo, and you can go on their website and share stories of, Volvo saved my life, believe it or not. And so, saved my life. I was going through an intersection. It was in a residential neighborhood. 2 lanes this way, 2 lanes coming back, with a medium with grass in the middle. And there was a car waiting to make a left, and I'm behind that car. I was doing, I think it was 35 miles per hour, and I was doing 30 or something like that. They have, because of all the tire marks and because of the car accident, they can actually tell exactly how quick I was going. I was at 30, even though it was 35 miles per hour. I was going through the intersection, and he was driving 15 miles per hour. And my understanding is that my brain smashed against my skull at 45 miles per hour and then sheared to the right. So it bounced forward and back. That's called contre coup, and then sheared to the right. So this is B. I thought there was D. Yeah, we got another previous one we have to open up. Okay, well, we know we're going to need them for the next, so maybe I'll share more about the story another day, but suffice it to say, I had to, took 3 years to be properly diagnosed because my doctors said that I am high functioning without a victim mentality, and so that didn't work with Western medicine doctors. And at the time, there's D. I don't even think that, oh, you can see that. How great is that? So what do we have? We have a lot, but so we have H. Are we done with H? There's B. Whoops. Get that proper. All right, so H is done. We have G. Where are we with W? Oh. Are we done with W? I think we're done with W. Where are we with R? Oh, we've got some good R's up there. Okay. So suffice it to say, I went to UCLA, Cedars-Sinai, and Northridge because I lived in LA at the time. And they were unable to help me. I was told that I was too high functioning and I didn't have a victim mentality. I was in shape and I presented well from what I understand. I stayed pretty eloquent throughout, which just simply means parts of my brain were not damaged. And unfortunately, being that I was eloquent was looked at as a negative to helping me get help, instead of being listened to for the fact that I had spent years of my life giving presentations. When I grew up, I gave presentations about drunk driving, about the importance of not drunk driving. A school, I want to say friend, but I think in reality he was more of an acquaintance. I just adored him, but it's not, I didn't really know a lot about him, didn't hang out with him. His name was Stevie Dominic, and he unfortunately was killed by a drunk driver when we were in middle school. And I got very involved in educating as many people as I could about the importance of just not letting people drive drunk. I thought, statistically speaking, it was killing more of my friends than almost anything else, and it, I believed, was preventable. And so in middle school, I used to give speeches. The speech said something like, I'm only 16, and it's an extremely powerful speech that if you present the dialogue properly, you're going to have people cry, and if you're not presenting it properly, you won't have a tear in the room. So, but it was a good feedback loop for me, who was starting giving large presentations, because I could tell where in the room I was affecting people and where in the room I was not. That's something else we can get into, is how you speak into the space that you're provided. And unfortunately, there are times when you just can't. So I used to give speeches, so I was big time into that in middle school, and I was able to start a peer counseling program. And then in high school, I was president of Students Against Drunk Driving, and I started our system such that when you were a senior, you kept the title, but your last semester, possibly two, I don't remember, you shared it with the incoming president, so that we were not in a position to not, so you had constantly your mentor, so the previous president was able to get the honors of being president for their resumes, but the incoming president had the power of having a mentor, somebody who had already run the club the year, for a year before. So everybody overlapped for a semester or two, because you can't really ask a senior to pay attention to anything than what they're paying, then kind of thinking into the future when they're seniors. It's kind of mean if you think about it, right? You're going to tell seniors, oh, you're going to be seniors and you're going to experience this year that we all talk about forever. Some people never, wishing they never went back to high school. Other people wishing they did. But whatever it was, you can't exactly ask these people to show up for everybody else when they have so many things on their personal plate and you don't know what's happening at their home. So I implemented this layover system where, I don't know, I didn't invent it. I heard it from somewhere, and I said, well, that sounds like a good idea. We do that here. And so at the school, we ended up implementing it where you had that layover, and so the club was able to keep its message, which is super important, especially during the times when the seniors are already mentally in the next places that they need to be. So I was very involved in advocacy groups about drunk driving, and by middle school, that meant I was already meeting with other presidents of other SCATTs. I had a friend, Scott, who was, I think, at Miramar High School. I went to Western High School, and my brother went to Cooper City, and I went to, and my friend went to Miramar, I believe, anyway. And so I got to meet students from other schools, and I gave speech. My main point is that by that point in my life, I was in my early 30s when the accident happened, and I had already given speeches for almost 20 years. So for doctors to discount me because I was eloquent was a real lack of being seen and understood. You know what I mean? So finally, I brought all my records with me, and I was having dinner with a girlfriend of mine and her boyfriend, and he was a retired professional athlete, professional soccer player. And I pretty much was like, what do I do with all this? And these are my medical records. This is what I know. I know that whatever's happening to me, it's happened to other people. I don't believe it's unique, and I believe that other people are smarter than me and have already solved the problem, and all I have to do is go find them and do whatever they tell me is the protocol that has already been proven on other people. And he said, yep, you're exactly right. He said, baby, you have a concussion. He said, everything you're talking about is textbook concussion. And at the time, it was textbook post-concussive syndrome, which it still is now. Post-concussive syndrome is one of those diagnoses in the DSM. I don't remember what DSM number at the time, but it's definitely one from before the one that we have now. I was positive of that, but it's not my world. I'm not interested in becoming an expert on brain injuries. Happy there are neurologists out there. Thank you so much. For me, I wanted to get better. And so he said, call my friend Ed, who's in Austin. He said he gets hit by cars all the time. He's a cyclist. That's a whole other topic to get into, because even though there are laws, for example, in Texas, where people are supposed to stay 3 feet away from a cyclist when they hit the cyclist, which absolutely means that they did not stay 3 feet away. I mean, how easy of a case is that? You have a law you're talking about somebody violating, and a human who was hit in the bicycle lane on a street or where they legally can be riding, and the police don't give a ticket to the person that hit them for even so much as violating the 3-foot law, and you're supposed to give cyclists 3 feet of space, they won't get tickets. So I'm very much hoping that some people will say, oh no, I heard somebody that got a ticket. Well, good, but they need to get tickets if they hit somebody, and they need to not just have tickets, but take responsibility for the accident and realize that you might be a little shaken, but that person didn't have the benefit of the car to protect them. we're going to grab more of these out. So anyway, so I called him up and I said, Jeff asked that I call you. I have no idea what I'm supposed to, how I'm supposed to start talking about this. Now this is what I remember, but by this time the insomnia was so bad that I couldn't tell the difference between fantasy and reality. I had lost a lot of my bodily functions. I don't think at that time was a crazy time because one of the things was my brain had rewired due to stuff that happened when I was a child. I was told later on. So I had about 17 hours a week of clarity, just what seemed like complete clarity, and I could get very high level thinking work done. I was able to keep a few clients and figure out my working situation. I was fired from my job for having a car accident because even though in the United States there are some laws about being protected, my company, LexisNexis, go ahead, it's factual. I can say all the truth about them because truth is a defense to defamation. So if they think I'm defaming them, look at my records, baby. You guys are the ones that messed up. They refused to accept. What they did actually was they accepted my doctor's note for me to take time off because my doctors couldn't figure out what was going wrong, and they wanted to do exploratory surgery on my stomach, and I had issues with, I didn't understand how cutting open my stomach would help them solve a problem that they didn't understand to begin with versus opening up an entire can of worms. So I ended up, we'll get into that. The way I proved them wrong on that was I went to a health spa, fat farm, whatever you want to call it, for 3 weeks because at that time, with the car accident being as bad as it was, the brain injury being as bad as it was, I couldn't cook my own food and things like that. And so I also couldn't properly report to the doctors because I didn't have any of the organizational skills at that time. I had massive insomnia. I'm messing up the timeline a little, but I'll clarify it in another video. It's all the same kind of stuff anyway. We're talking about all the years until I ended up getting to treatment. But the Lexus, so I ended up going to a fat farm for a couple weeks because they fed you. They're no longer in business, which is really sad. It was called it was a spa in Ojai. There's one now, but that's not this one. This one was, it was the Oaks at Ojai, and without question, I absolutely thought they were one of the best. Getting back in shape, reducing stress, kind of getting a handle on your life kind of places, you know. When I was studying in school, I was thinking really hard, and my boyfriend at the time said, well, why don't, I said, I feel like I need to get away, but I have so much work to do. And he says, so why don't you go to that, that place you'd heard about? He said, that way you don't have to cook, you don't have to clean, you just go for the weekend, and all you're going to be surrounded is the things you love. You're going to be surrounded by people that are, eating healthy. You're only going to have healthy options. You're going to have a comfy bed. You're going to have blah, 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 all these things. You're going to be in an environment that supports health. And this was when I was in school, and I ended up going for one weekend, and I got one of the best sleeps of my life. And so when things were a little bit hectic, and I knew I needed to get back on good food track or whatever, that was a place I had thought about and I was already comfortable with. At the time, it wasn't persistent post-concussive syndrome because I was in the first 3 years, so it was just post-concussive. It was just, well, they didn't have a title. It would have just been just the consequences of a concussion. So that's where you have all the PTSD and all the other stuff that you have. That's all associated with it, and you're getting misdiagnosed constantly because people know, and doctors, and that too much stuff. I'm not trying to complain, but there are some things in life that are definitely worth complaining about. And and that was one of them. Anyway, so I went to the place for 3 weeks, realized that I wasn't getting sick, and so I said, why would you give me exploratory surgery when if we know if there's a way for me to keep track of my food, then I don't get sick. I don't have any of those bodily issues we were talking about. And so anyway, the main point was that I had given my employer a doctor's note and they accepted it, but they kept calling me constantly, and they then said, oh no, we changed our mind, and when I was working with all the doctors and dealing with the treatments, I was supposed to be on a leave where you're left alone so that you can focus on, all the different doctor's appointments that you have and understanding what you're trying to deal with. Anyway, this is a ramble, and I don't know how helpful it is, so we might just change the topic. We'll see. So the main point was that then they denied my medical leave after I had already been on it, and then they started telling me that they were going to, then they ended up pulling from my paycheck all of the money they felt they were entitled to, because they accepted my medical leave based on my doctors at UCLA and Cedars-Sinai. Northridge never became, I went to them for doctor's appointments for evaluation, and they said I was textbook, but I was too high functioning for them to be able to help me. So even though they came to my house and saw I had moved and all my pictures were on the floor and I couldn't organize my kitchen, I had to have a friend come over and help me do that. They said, oh yeah, this is, textbook. One of the textbook things is people with brain injuries tend to keep cabinets open because they don't remember what's inside, or they put everything on counters because they can't remember what's inside. And so if you're working or knowledgeable or in the position to be knowledgeable about people with brain injuries, there are certain telltale signs of somebody's home that can help you know what's going on with them. Kind of like, when you used to go to the grocery store and you'd see somebody who kind of got stuck at the bread aisle or the toilet paper aisle, and they almost look like they have a little glazed look over their eyes, kind of like it's too overwhelming for them to move, that they just kind of freeze up. You almost sense that their energy is stuck. If you watch their body, they're just not moving forward. When you're watching people grocery shop, even if we stop in an aisle to take a look, you can kind of sense with people that they're working through whatever it is, their list on paper, their list in their head. But you can sometimes see some people get stuck, and it's almost as though they're in front of the aisle and their list is gone. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, where those are symptoms of something that if people are knowledgeable, they can attribute it or have a better guess. And then they can have compassion and kindness around it. For example, you know, you see a mom at the store with a crying kid, and she might be trying to figure out how to manage a child with the groceries. Well, sometimes it's as simple as saying, would you like me to help you unload your cart? Or is there something I can do to help? Or whatever amount of kindness you can share, letting that person know, if it looks to you to be true. I'm not saying you say this to people who are abusive or anything like that, but sometimes you can look at people and say, can I help? Or, you're doing a great job, keep it up. Or, it's a tough time, I promise it'll pass. I promise you will get more sleep in the future. I hope, you know, I promise, or not I promises, but today is definitely a ramble day. Anyway, they wouldn't accept my doctor's notes, and then started taking from my paycheck all the money they believed they were due, and every single crack you could fall in, I did. It was horrible. The biggest issue I had with them was the CEO wrote a letter to all the employees saying something to the gist of, we want, you know, it was a group that had come in, I think they came in from Pepsi to turn LexisNexis around. And he wrote an email to everybody saying, if you tell me the solution, or if you know, he was, the way that the email read, what to me was, we are having issues with our middle managers. We want you to know, come to me directly with ideas on how to make our numbers or how to improve, and I promise I will protect you. And I trusted. And so I spent that Christmas at a friend's house in New Jersey, because I felt as though I had the ability to make my yearly numbers by the end of the first quarter. And I negotiated with law firms all the contracts that I said, if we presented you the same contract that you signed last time, or the same exact, you know, contract you've had in the past, but we bundled, would you have services with us? And I was able to advance a few law firms. I sold SaaS to the law firms. I sold software as a service kind of thing to law firms, litigation strategy. We'll get into that. Anyway, and I tried to get my boss to bundle, because bundling was new at the time. She refused. And so I figured out how to make all my numbers by the end of Q1. I stayed at a friend's for a few weeks over Christmas holidays to figure it all out, because they could feed me and make sure everything. And with my brain injury, I knew I couldn't work the 80 hours a week I had been working. So I needed to figure out how to make my numbers. Well, I figured it out. And so I wrote the president in response to that email he had sent to everybody. And my boss, her name is Ileana Preda. I have zero trust or faith in her. She called me in absolutely furious. And she said, I will make sure you are fired. Because by sending this letter, so the way she heard about the letter was she had received it from the CEO. And she said, as far as I was concerned, the way that she took it was I was trying to get her friend Tiffany fired. Because Tiffany was in new business development. And how dare I, as a salesperson, make a recommendation for a new business development opportunity that made her friend look invaluable. I was crying. It was horrendous. I was like, my worldview at the time didn't incorporate being lied to and being destroyed for helping the company. And she was right. She got me fired within 2 months. Yep. And so obviously, and she is somebody I actually called from the accident scene, because I knew I wouldn't be able to make an important appointment the next morning. My car was totaled, and I was actually at the accident scene, you know. So I don't know, maybe we'll have a video about what it's like to be fired for a job for reasons that you stand behind, you know. So, and what really stunk about all this, I was so furious. And I was also so sick at the time that there wasn't much I could do. And so almost every decision from there was a bad one. I chose a horrible attorney. I didn't understand what was happening to me, and my doctors were not helpful until finally the counselor I was seeing, Marnie, love her, she's amazingly professional. She was honest about figuring it out at the time, and she said, I think I found your diagnosis. She said, but she didn't say it like that. She said something like, I want to read something to you, and you need to tell me like how true it is or not. It was one of those kinds of statements. She wasn't setting me up for a yes. She was setting me up for, let's see if this is your truth. She started reading all of the symptoms for post-concussive syndrome, and I hit every one except dizzy. Don't worry, we got dizzy in the last year when I was in physical therapy. Georgia fortunately signaled to me for it, which was amazing to me, because really proof that service dogs are amazing, and they do have the right to veto us. That's their job. That's the agreement I have with Georgia. I was at physical therapy, and all of a sudden she gets up and walks and blocks me. And I'm used to a block. She blocks when people are getting too close to me, because people tend to bump into me a lot. That's not a me thing. I understand that's a big women thing. It's common that women get bumped into all the time. Our integrity, our space around us is not respected frequently. Anyway. So she started reading, and every single thing matched. There was no symptom I had that was outside of that definition. And then we read a couple other definitions, like PTSD. Well, PTSD didn't work anymore. I had already, for the most part, the PTSD had already subsided. with what I have, PTSD comes back as a subsymptom. I don't know if I'm saying that right or not, but that's conceptually what it is. It's almost like a sub, like a mini set. I want to do, see, I think I might get rid of, I'm going to put this to the side because it's bent. Oh, that's a good one. There we go. So we've got some C's. So anyway, so that's when we realized that that was the perfect diagnosis for me. And I was able to call some of the researchers at UCLA, and they were incredible. Oh, absolutely, this is this and this is this, but nope. At the time, they didn't have any of the tools being used on the regular, on the patient treatment side. I don't know. Somebody else knows all these terms. I hope you can understand them. And so I got a dog. A dog is telling me I've been paying attention a little too long. Hi, Sadie. Oh, my baby bean. Who's my baby bean? Oh, we just love you so much. Kissing the mic? I don't know how that works. Oh, my baby girl. Let's see if you can see this. Are you ready for this to get moved?